Warning. This content includes graphic and violent stories which may be disturbing to some audiences. People who work for social media companies that reviews the community reports. What report that you reviewed that you will never forget about? In a past era, I had a job that involved moderating social phone lines, ranging from party lines, not explicit, to date phone lines, not sure if these are still advertised on late-night TV. It was the original meet singles in your area for amateur fornicate chat. At least twice per month, a child would go missing after meeting someone on the line, and we would fax over transcripts and known phone numbers. We had a 2-minute lull between new content and content being screened, so generally predators would wait for a child to dial in, say something sweet, give them a burner phone number, and that was that. I had to tell a grandma what our service was, who called after checking her phone records when her 12-year-old granddaughter went missing. She was from the rural South and had gotten a VM from the kid in a train/bus station in San Francisco. This ancient lady was vibrating with worry and it broke me to go through the explanations with her. People, guys, generally, exploited the phone tree to reach moderators or credit card checkers to jerk off to us, constantly. I had a guy who told me he was ill-treating a child there and that we couldn't do anything, and you could hear this piercing panic screaming. I still don't know if it was a recording, I hope, or not, but the first time I heard it, I foolishly signaled my horror. For a period after that, he would get through and hang up on each other employee until he got me again. People would try to buy and sell other adults, offer to sell or babies/toddlers for meager amounts of money. I saw accounts of people who spent tens of thousands of dollars that they didn't have, accounts of people asking to be banned and then pleading to have the ban lifted, which it always was. High spenders would do egregious things, including looking for underage callers, and managers would erase their permanent bans. People were sometimes violently mugged meeting people through our line, especially gay men. There were many very young children home alone for very long times, with the vocal equivalent of a 1,000-year stare. A 3-year-old boy asked me when his mom/grandma, can't remember, was coming back. She'd gone since the morning and it was the middle of the night. He couldn't even tell me where he was beyond his state. The people who called in were disproportionately poor, rural, in the US. They generally did not have internet, so this was a main social connection. I'm sure many people had fun, but behind the scenes it was a horror show. You got desensitized to routine content but could never anticipate really standout acts of viciousness or desperation. I worked nights during school, ironically after being treated for violent trauma myself and hitting a dangerously level of poverty. It didn't pay well, but if you stayed, you got paid. I didn't realize the scale of how it affected me until I was away for a bit. We still had offshore people, in India, who moderated the heaviest bannable content, and I can't imagine what kind of monsters they imagine we are. Geez. It is very easy to imagine that the internet is responsible for the depravity infecting society or whatnot. But your testimony is a great reminder that those people already existed, have always existed, before the World Wide Web. There is a dude posting CP on Instagram. It's been up for a week and hasn't been taken down and has like 18k comments on it. I don't understand how the algorithms haven't kicked in and taken his posts down, or someone hasn't manually flagged his profile for removal. Thousands of people have reported him at this point. If you see this dude pop up again, use this link to report his account. Assuming both yourself and him are based in the US. It'll report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I've used it myself in the past on a guy posting urn of underage teenage girls on Tumblr, and it got dealt with. Hope this helps. Edit. Thanks for the awards, D-Edit too. Forgot to mention, it doesn't even have to be photos or videos in order to make a report. It can also be things like text posts in which a user describes acts of mistreat they've committed/plan on committing, or even inappropriate material. Pics, dirty messages, etc., sent to minors. Even if it sounds like bullcrap and or fantasy, report it anyways. I worked for a company where a user told his friend in chat he was going to kill himself by jumping from a bridge in UK. The player reported this to police and police contacted us for IP address to go stop him. The next few days I checked his activity and chat logs and he was inactive. And then a few days later he was active again. Such a relief, but I couldn't sleep well those few nights worried. Facebook/Instagram odd. Got a video in my rotation. 2 little girls sitting out in a grassy area. Don't really remember much, but they were definitely between 6 to 10. I don't think they were much older or much younger. I don't remember if you could hear a guy giving them directions on what to do to each other or if it was just very obvious that they were receiving direction. Basically having them do feet stuff to each other, tickling, licking, etc. It was very subtle because I remember having to ask if I could mark it for CP. We get docked points in our monthly score if we marked content incorrectly. It was obviously CP to me, and it was obvious it would lead up to more, but guidelines are very black and white and content has to meet very specific criteria. However, this video was trying to be passed off as silly kids just playing with each other. I'd how to explain it, it was just super creepy. I had one person say they were just being silly, but another supervisor sided with me and told her it was very obviously child porn. I ended up escalating the video for CP. I don't know what happens after that, since I think it goes to a company that deals with this content. Nothing explicitly happened in the video, but it was just so disturbing and made me wonder what situation these girls were in. Other than that, it was mostly people getting chopped up by cartels, adult workers, guys getting fisted elbow deep, a guy chopping up his own dick, surgeons removing a giant dildo out of a guy's butt, people being dismembered after a car crash, guys killing each other, heads chopped off, more adult workers, drugs, people trying to sell or buy exotic animals, more adult content, girls calling each other hoes, people hurting and or killing animals. I worked the Latin American market. I hear it was much more dull on the North American side of the office across the hall. None of that stuff fazed me except for when children or animals were involved. Or when a video went viral of a Colombian woman taking her son and jumping off a bridge with him in a murder-suicide. I couldn't stand to look at that one either. Oh wow, a thread tailor-made for me. I spent the last 2 years working in content moderation, and I'd say I handle it well, though my short-term memory is really bad now and I'm led to believe that is a symptom of PTSD, but I'm not gonna get into that. Anyway, to answer your question, I'd say the jobs that stuck with me the most were ones that showed animal torture and then stayed on the animal. For instance, there is one video out there of this lady just casually chopping the leg of this dog off and toss it into a stew or something. But the video stays focused on this poor dog trying to come to grips with the fact it's missing its leg, trying to step on it but it can't, then it just kinda lays down and cries, licking at the wound. That one is rough. The other one that comes to mind was a video of this guy being dismembered, limb by limb. Once his last leg was taken off, they proceeded to beat his skull in with his own severed leg. He stopped wailing after a while, but he was whimpering throughout the whole thing. Those two stuck out to me, but there was a deluge of content of all varieties, memes and jokes, and videos of all kinds day after day. I'd say 90% of the day you wouldn't see anything worse than you would scrolling the front page of Reddit. But every once in a while something happens in the world and every single person seems to have to be the one to put it up again and again. Like the Krisk shooting, I watched that video probably 100 times. I've seen it to do music, I've seen it with no Russian, I've seen it with a laugh track, I've seen it with a victory royale slapped on it. I've seen it all, and no, you aren't creative for putting it up there. Edit. Just to answer some really common questions. Can't mention who I work for due to NDA, but I'm sure you can guess. We had to watch the first 15 seconds no matter what, however certain videos we would be told to continue watching for up to 10 minutes. People can, and do, just dip out if they already know what the video is because it was trending. For instance, Grudge, after a while we would see his face, the church, the manifesto, etc., and it was just an instant delete. We do not forward to law enforcement unless it was live video or child pornography. Pay is actually really good, more than double the state minimum with differentials based on when your shift is. We aren't being paid scraps for this. I'll answer any other common questions I see. Throw away because my main is too closely tied to other in real life stuff. There's a lot. I worked in the field for a year and a half, and came out of it different than I went in. Places like that rot your soul, man. You see the worst of humanity in places like that. I know what it sounds like when a man splits in two. I know the thud and crunch of a jumper as they hit the ground. I know how people scream when they're inside a tire fire. The worst thing though, I was a SME and one of the people working just got up and ran sobbing. Didn't go and turn off her computer, so I had to finish the job. It sticks with me. A video of a grown man holding down a toddler and roping them. I left that place almost a year ago. Need therapy and my anxiety is worse. I got diagnosed with PTSD. It's awful that these companies chew people up and spit them out broken. They don't care. More desperate people in need of healthcare and 15 an hour will come. I needed to get that out. Thank you. Bomb threat made to an airline by a disgruntled passenger. The guy who had made the threat had his flight cancelled and was in free accommodation provided by the airline. He left so many of his different social accounts public it wasn't hard to find his name, match them to flight details and get everything to the authorities. Within an hour, police confronted him at the hotel room. Not sure if it counts, but I was a mod for a subreddit related to true crime. We got a report about a guy asking really off questions. He was basically asking hypotheticals about what kinds of clues detectives would look for if his wife was murdered. He was saying that she ran on a trail that was dangerous, and if something happened to her, he would want to help with the investigation. Someone told him it seemed like he was planning to murder his wife and was soliciting advice to help cover his tracks. As soon as they said that, he deleted all of his posts and account. We sent the reports up the chain, and I believe the super admins may have contacted the police. I never heard any follow-ups, so I'm not sure if it was a bad joke or what. It was really unsettling though. Oh god, I had a really similar experience about 6 years ago. I'd commented on a video, can't remember any of the context, and started getting harassed by someone in response to it. After a few days of being spammed by them, I went on their page/profile, and saw they were commenting on video after video, harassing random people and saying the most disgusting things. Telling people to kill themselves, using slurs here, there and everywhere, etc. I also saw that she was a girl in her early teens, whose only video was of her looking very overweight and unkempt, smearing her crap all over a bathroom wall in what appeared to be someone's home. I was aware that children smearing their feces is an indication of some kind of trauma response/mental illness, and given her online behavior, I was convinced this was a very troubled child who needed help, not the online mistreat she was, understandably, getting in response to her comments. I sent her a message saying it seemed like she was having a hard time, that I wasn't angry with her, and I hoped she could find someone to talk to. She never replied, but she did stop harassing me. Sadly, she continued to harass other people until her account disappeared a few weeks later. I still think about her. I run a 200k sub YouTube channel on my own. I can pretty much confirm all of that. I personally don't get a lot of racist stuff, but for whatever reason my Asian viewers are often insulted by others. But I'm German, so I get a lot of Hitler/Nazi related comments. I'm also a woman, so I also get sexist comments a lot. Sexual harassment happens daily. Not to mention all sorts of threats, death, rope, hacking, doxing, etc. People point out flaws about you that you've never noticed before. One of the worst things is the complaints. Yes, people complain a lot about free content. As soon as a video doesn't live up to their expectations, they lose their mind. Even when your channel is just a hobby and you upload consistently for years, people call you lazy and tell you to get a real job. When you have a relatively big channel, people assume you're rich and beg for stuff. Some people went from being huge fans to haters within days for no apparent reason. There was this one person who would write massive paragraphs about some weird conspiracy theories. There was a person sending me written CP. Luckily just written, but still disturbing as hell. You get loads of fetishists asking for pictures of your feet, etc. People spread all sorts of random things about you that aren't even remotely true. To be fair, there's also an incredible amount of nice and supportive people out there, but this isn't what this thread is about. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, like, comment, share.